What is up, Bat Family? Welcome back to a brand new The Batman 2022 video. And yes, 2022. I can't believe there's been some comments saying, no dude, it's 2021. Where have you been living? No, but seriously, I'm really happy that you guys have enjoyed this series so far. I didn't really think it would turn into a series, but we've got part 1, we've got part 2, and now I'm back here with part 3, where you guys just chuck in anything you want to talk to me about with the upcoming The Batman, and I just give my opinion on it, see if I agree with you, give my own thoughts, and you name it. And it's just, it keeps the kind of hype alive for this movie when there isn't so much stuff coming out right now in terms of actual tangible news and set pictures and all stuff like that. So I'm not going to ramble any further. I have screenshotted so many good questions that I really think I'm not going to be able to get through them all. Like, usually I answer 20 something maybe. I've got 47 here, so that gives you an idea of how there's likely going to be a part 4. I'm really not trying to milk this. It's just, there's genuinely, I want to try and answer as many questions as I can. So go ahead, like this video if you did enjoy it. Merry Christmas tomorrow to everyone who's celebrating Christmas, I suppose. If not, just happy holidays in general. Let's get in with number 1, and that is from Kenny Hardy saying, do you think that this trilogy will focus on the more psychological members of Batman's rogues gallery, such as Mad Hatter, Scarecrow, Two-Face, the Ventriloquist, and so on? Or do I think that it's going to lean towards taking mainstream villains like Joker, Bane, Ra's al Ghul, Harley, etc., or monstrous villains like Croc, Professor Pig, Man-Bat, and so on? I mean, that's a very difficult question for me to answer. I think I would lean more into the psychological aspect, just because I think this trilogy, the vision that Matt Reeves is going for, and there's a few questions actually specifically asking about this later on, which I'll get into a little bit more, but I think these films are going to develop Bruce psychologically. He's going to start off as a noob Batman. By the end of the first film, he would have improved, but he's still got lots of trials and tribulations to go throughout the second and third movie. I think that is the main kind of structure of these films, exploring the human nature of Bruce Wayne, and there's so many layers with that. So I think any villain, to be honest, could challenge him psychologically. It doesn't technically have to be the more psychological rooted ones, such as Scarecrow with Fear Toxin. But yeah, I don't know. I like to think that they're going to explore a variety, but also not overdose or oversaturate us. Or if Matt Reeves does decide to have a whole catalog in there, I think he will do it wisely, in the sense that he won't have too many villains in one film. I mean, he technically might, but it won't be to the detriment of the film. I think he will use it wisely. There'll be a bit of world building, but I think it's impossible to visit every single one we want to see. But I also like to think he's not just going to rely on the typical ones, and he might surprise us with someone like Killer Croc. But then I just have to remind myself, even though I think Matt Reeves is going to go for a blend of grounded plus comic book, so being able to do villains like Poison Ivy, Killer Croc and stuff, he has to do it very wisely so it doesn't compromise the grounded yet comic book vision he's striving for. But anyway, question 2 from Agastoni. Sorry if I butchered your name. I'm real curious on your take. How likely is it that the studio will try to connect this to a multiverse of other on-screen Batman? Thanks, Boba. How likely is this? So the only likelihood this would happen is in the upcoming Flash movie, and if you guys aren't aware already, there is so many cameos happening in that, ones that still yet to be announced. So many old DC actors from previous iterations of you name it are in negotiations to come back. But when it comes to Robert Pattinson, technically anyone could argue that they could do the window throughout the Speed Force tunnel to see Robert Pattinson's Batman, but I think they're going to keep that door closed, even though they're visiting all of these other historic, iconic actors who have played the roles. I just feel like they're not going to do that for Matt Reeves' universe. They technically could. I wouldn't be surprised if they just gave a snippet of Robert Pattinson's Bruce Wayne in the cowl or something like you're seeing on screen. They could just do a 5-second thing, but who knows? I can't really say. So the next one's from Brick Studios 105. Would you like to see flashbacks of Bruce growing up with his parents and maybe get a hint of what their relationship was like, and maybe see some drama, considering it's hinted the Waynes were connected to Gotham's corruption? So yes, long story short, yes. To expand on that a little bit, I don't think anyone particularly wants to see the Wayne death origin, you know, Peter Parker, Uncle Ben thing. It's just been done and done and done again. However, we're not opposed to seeing things like you're suggesting, flashbacks. And I think that would be quite, if used correctly, crucial to several moments within the film, as long as it's relevant. Like Bruce, since this is very much so heavily relying on a kind of impulsive Batman in this first film, like he's come back with a purpose, but he's got so much to learn in his own, yeah, and he's taking that in his own stride as he goes throughout the movie, and he's going to be learning things he does wrong. Maybe he needs to dial things back. He's learning about his shadow side of himself, and he's not even fully aware of that, which is where the more Batman ego stuff comes in. And I can't wait to talk about a specific question somebody asks me, because there's a really cool theory out at the minute. But yeah, I feel like the reason why I'm saying all of that is to tie in the point of, in those incremental moments in the movie, they could use like a segment from his childhood where he looked up at his parents on a pedestal, and it's just a little scene where he remembers something and it's just relevant to the moment. It could be a neat way to tie that into the first movie, considering this is not quite Foundation Batman, but basically still, you know, paving the way forward Batman. So yeah, I would really like to see that. As for if they would do it, I don't know, but I do think they might do something like this to some extent. Just like no Martha Wayne, Thomas Wayne origin with the pearls or anything, but involving them somehow. A memory would be really cool. Next question from your boy, 1035. Do you think we will ever see Jason Todd or his death in the trilogy? Do I think we'll ever see him? I think it's very unlikely, because if they're going to do a Robin at all, I think Matt Reeves would choose Dick Grayson. He wouldn't do a thing like Christopher Nolan did, where he tried to blend several different Robins into the name of the Robin they set up at the end of The Dark Knight Rises. Like, I think he would be doing it fairly, you know, canonically, if that makes sense. I know it's an adaptation. He's going to be taking many things into his own iteration with his adaptation. But I think he would start with Dick Grayson if we're going to get a Robin at all in the trilogy. However, I would pay so much money to see some sneak peek of a movie in the future where we see Robert Pattinson lose Jason Todd to the Joker. That would be epic. But is it the right time for this trilogy, considering? Yes, you could argue there will be a Robin in this, totally. I've been talking about this. This is why I recommend checking out my part 1 and part 2 of the Q&A, because I've gone over this a lot. And you can have a Robin in the second movie, because like Batman would be in year 3, and that's not unlike him in the source material, but I think it would be Dick, not Jason. But you never know. Matt Reeves might, if he does introduce Robin in the second or third film, he might take Jason Todd's story and give it to Dick Grayson, just like Zack Snyder did. I mean, who knows? But I doubt it. Next question is from Nathan Smurth. Wait. Either way, do you think Matt Reeves could make a better, oh, I like this question, trilogy than Christopher Nolan? Wholeheartedly, yes. Don't get me wrong. I'm not trying to insult anyone by saying that. I love the Christopher Nolan Batman trilogy. It definitely paved a way forward and almost redefined comic book films in terms of a take that had never been seen before in this way. That fashioned a road forward for different filmmakers to be like, oh, I see what you did there. I want to do something like that, but in my own vision. And I think I really do feel like it was monumental for comic book films. But does that mean that he can't be topped? Yes, he can be. And I know this sounds like way too premature to say, but obviously covering the Batman on this channel, I've done so much research and I've paid extra attention with, you know, I've got both my eyes open and 2 eyes on top of my head that you can't see whenever I'm looking at all of this stuff. I love what Matt Reeves had to say at DC Fandom. I've done a whole video on this, I've said it before, but I really do recommend checking it out, because I compiled everything he said at DC Fandom into one video, more or less quote by quote, going over it and also emphasizing my own opinions on it. But he was spitting scripture like a freaking priest, and his vision for it is just so invigorating as a Batman fan. I can't wait, and I feel like everything he's put the line work in for is just gonna be, you know, painted over, and when it actually comes to color and its final presentation, I think it really does have the potential to top the Christopher Nolan trilogy. I think my concluding thoughts on Nathan's question here is, do I think that it could be a better Batman trilogy to Christopher Nolan's one? What Christopher Nolan did is he tried to make it insanely grounded, right? And that was really cool and unique about it. Batman, almost like in the real world. There wasn't, you know, Killer Croc or Poison Ivy to that world. However, with Reeves, he's going for that, but there will be, I'm not saying there will be, but like I am convinced he will be doing, or like villains out there such as Bane with Venom, whereas Christopher Nolan didn't do that, or Poison Ivy or Killer Croc, or characters like that can be done. So imagine Nolan universe, but with, imagine the comic book pages with villains like that, but presented in a grounded way, yet they're still supernaturally being done, or with their metahuman stuff. I think that is going to be the blend, but certain characters just might be avoided, i.e., for example, Clayface, just because even though he might technically exist out there to accomplish that on screen with CG and stuff, even though he wants to go for stuff like that, that might just be a bit too ambitious because of the CG. Might compromise the realism he's kind of going for at the same time, if that makes sense. Whereas Poison Ivy, it's like you can kind of do that. The CG would be way less immersion breaking. So you get what I'm trying to say. You get what I'm trying to say. And I feel like he's going to get the definitive Batman here over the Christopher Nolan trilogy. So the next question, and it's quite a long one, but I believe I screenshotted this for a very good reason because I wanted to expand upon it. So Rowan Pillai says, since Matt Reeves mentioned Batman ego, and I've literally got it right up there because I wanted to look into this myself as an influence on this movie, I have a theory as to how this might play out in the film. So throughout the film, Bruce will be haunted by the shadow of a bat. Every time he fails to save one of the Riddler's murder victims, or every time he almost takes the life of a criminal, he sees this bat monster. The film will not only be tracking down the Riddler and finding out about the corruption of Gotham, but also trying to find the darker parts of himself. 100% Matt Reeves has said that as well. Like, he's like looking at himself and is just like, wait, what is this shadow self of me coming out? It's him realizing. That's why I love the vision. He's realizing himself as he's becoming himself and acting out as himself. I love it. But anyway, then maybe after Bruce finds out the depths of corruption and maybe fails to save yet another victim, he starts to question the purpose of Batman. And this is when he finally comes face to face with the darker side of himself, the darkest side of Batman. The darkest side of Batman tells Bruce that every time he failed to save someone or almost took a life, the Batman persona that he created started to get filled with rage and anger. Bruce and Batman debate about whether they should have a split personality, whether they should kill the Riddler. In the end, Bruce and Batman agree to never kill. So, and they both merge as one. So, like, I think you're on the right track of ego, and that's what Matt Reeves gave us with the clue, right? He gave us part of the formula, and we need to figure the rest out. I mean, we don't have to, but like, we've got enough to figure out, I think, what they're doing. What I wanted to expand on here is I don't necessarily fully agree with what you're saying now with exactly the vision you have, but the Batman ego stuff you're bringing out, I think, will be very relevant, as Matt Reeves teased, and people are linking this into the drops. Now, you may have heard several different theories with the drops in Gotham, if you're not even aware of what they are. Very quickly, for those who have no idea, the drops are a thing in this world, in this movie, within Gotham, that citizens are getting addicted to. Think of it as like a psychedelic drug, something like that, of an acid trip. We don't truly know the effects of it right now. We don't know technically who created it. There's clues with the imagery looking like a Scarecrow-esque cowl or hood. People think that it could look more Joker-y than Scarecrow-y. It doesn't, either way, Mad Hattery, who knows? But either way, it's like being blown up on adverts saying, you know, ring the Gotham Health Department if you need help and stuff like this. But someone, I really apologize if they happen to be watching this video. I read this somewhere. It was on my Twitter feed. This isn't my theory. Like, I'm just, I guess, spewing my own conscious stream on top of it. With that, maybe Robert Pattinson's Bruce or Batman, doesn't really matter what mode he's in, gets a dose of it. I don't think he would take it voluntarily, to be honest, but he might get dosed with it. And this is actually how, in a Scarecrow-esque way, in like Batman Begins, but not as lethal, but it's more of an experience for him. Something that helps develop his character and personify his Batman even unto himself. So in Batman Ego, and just like what we're talking about here with this question, he literally does have like this trip where he sees Batman and he's freaking out. He's having this very existential kind of crisis with himself. You know, who am I? What's going on here? And I really like, the reason why I chose this question is because I feel like this theory paired with this is very possible, because what if Bruce does actually confront, as Matt Reeves said, in a very Batman ego way, and maybe you're seeing a screenshot of the comic on screen right now, you know, his inner self, and that is how he confronts and owns and is aware of his shadow self, and I guess gets a bit further in his Batman-ness, and I think that would be so cool to bring those strips of Batman ego, and I definitely recommend picking it up if you haven't already. But incorporating that story through the drops, like maybe, I don't know how or why he would take it. It might just be an instance where it inadvertently happens to him. But you can really imagine him getting back into the cave. He's on the come down, so to speak, like, and he's just in a daze and a trip of a really psychological self journey. And that for him will be his potential Batman moment. And funnily enough, this is what I mean. Errol Nino Ross, sorry if I butchered that, sits about reason mentioned Batman ego as an inspiration. Do you think we'll see scenes of Batman confronting himself, or even a physical representation of fear like in the comics? So that is what I was on about. So yeah, I knew I screenshotted a few of these for a reason. So Hush says, do you think Hugo Strange would be a good villain to show up at some point? And what other, maybe not as well-known characters would you like to see pop up during a trilogy? Hugo Strange, I don't know, I feel like, I mean, he could. They could easily write him in. I was about to say, I feel like Hugo Strange is really a little bit further down the line in Batman's career, but with any new iteration or writing, you can always incorporate him in earlier, just like Gotham had, you know, Hugo Strange involved with, in actually a really unique way, with Indian Hill, and he kind of helped contribute to, you could argue, the climate of Gotham City for when the Gotham TV show's Bruce Wayne became Batman in the future. Like, he helped the makeup, right, of what created some of those hideous characters. But, do I see that in Matt Reeves' Batman trilogy? I'm not really sure. I think they've got more than enough material to present to fans than Hugo. So I'm going to say no. I think he could still be a good villain, but I don't see him being behind something with the Robert Pattinson Batman. And as for not as well-known characters, I mean, I feel like quite a lot of Batman Rogues Gallery members are well-known, but this is a well-known character, but I really want to see Professor Pig in his own movie almost. Like, it'd be very much so, to be honest, like a rehash of what the vibe is for this film, with Riddler like a serial killer, very Zodiac going round. I guess I just like the serial killer detective mode of Batman going around trying to find a serial killer, and Professor Pig is very much so the same story there. Not exactly, because Riddler's adding a bit of spice to, oh, riddle me this, riddle me that, or what's going on here? If you don't stop this, I'm gonna go kill another person in the cathedral. That's, I would say, more flavorsome, but Professor Pig is almost like another Long Halloween they could do with another serial killer Batman's trying to track down, but it would just be creepy. Like, even scarier than, well, I don't think this film's going to be necessarily scary, it's going to be psychological, but this would be like, I would say, the upcoming Batman 2022 film, but imagine creepy mode. Savage Stories, do you think this trilogy will develop Batman's Rogues Gallery? Develop the Rogues Gallery. I suppose you're saying that in an extent in the way we've never seen before in live action. Maybe it's just because we've only really ever seen Penguin or Joker done in the films. What about developing maybe some other characters? I know Mr. Freeze has been done before, and Riddler, but I feel like the reason why we're allowed another free pass at them is because they were very eccentric, and not to disrespect that, because it's like a product of the time in the 80s and 90s and stuff like that. I think Riddler and Penguin to redo in a modern way is fair enough, but should we get some other characters? I would love to see Giancarlo Esposito as Mr. Freeze. I feel like he could really give a good and kind of really empathetic story to losing his wife and stuff like that. That would be so good. And he's on fire right now ever since Breaking Bad to The Mandalorian, and you know, he was in Better Call Saul. I mean, he's great. You should know Giancarlo Esposito. He'd be so good as Mr. Freeze. He is my #1 fan cast as Victor Freeze. Or Fries, whatever way you want to go there. I don't know, yeah, for sure. Will it develop on that? I think Matt Reeves will give a diverse kind of development to the Rogues Gallery. I really hope to be surprised there. Something like, I don't know, really randomly bringing out Ventriloquist. I mean, imagine if he pulled off Ventriloquist in a serious way. Gotham had such a good image with that, but it was such a ridiculous episode. They killed off the Ventriloquist by the end of the episode because it's Gotham. It's like, oh, was it really the Ventriloquist? It was, but before I go on a whole tangent there, my base instinct of thinking of a villain like Ventriloquist coming to his own movie, it's like, nah, they can't hold up a whole movie with that. But imagine if they did actually write a captivating plot throughout the whole film that was just the Ventriloquist. I think he would probably be better served with maybe a movie where several villains get loose and Batman has to take other lesser ones out who can't necessarily hold up their own movie, like Ventriloquist. But yeah, the reason why I went down that kind of rambling route is because I'm trying to think of other villains that he can develop other than just the most popular ones, like, oh, Joker, oh, Penguin, oh, you know, Riddler. So Davis P says, for some reason, I feel like there's just a small chance that Joaquin could be returning. I can just see the movie being over and Batman gets an emergency alert of someone close to him, captured, and he zooms with the bat bike to a warehouse, and Joker leaves the warehouse and lighting a match, blowing it up right before Batman gets there, and there's That's Life playing by Frank Sinatra as Joker walks out of the building dancing, and then the credits roll. What do you think, Boba? Love your videos. I would love to have my theory talked about. Thank you very much, Davis. One funny thing here is that no matter what anyone says, I do 100% agree that Joaquin Phoenix's Arthur Fleck tonally could work in Matt Reeves' vision and in the same world. Will that happen? I don't necessarily think so at all. It is just very curious to all the naysayers out there with all the smiles Joaquin Phoenix has done here, there, and the other when talking about a sequel. Like, he's gone on talk shows where he's literally said, I will come back if there's something that is interesting. I would love to play this character again. Didn't think it would start as a dream job or anything like that, but I have to admit, I'm paraphrasing here, but like, it more or less became a dream job, and I feel like if there's more to tell there, I will do it. Now, will that happen? Very likely not. Seriously, I'm not really trying to entertain that idea, but one thing I will say is there is a guilty pleasure side of me that would really still like to see Arthur Fleck in this world. Before anyone types, oh, but baby, you don't get it, it would be like 82 or something like that. What, he wouldn't work in Robert Pattinson's world? That's actually really wrong. If you add up the ages and you wanted to be a little bit generous, Joaquin Phoenix's Joker would end up around the same age as Jack Nicholson's Joker for the Michael Keaton Batman, so like, he could work. Plus, they could play with the timey-wimey aspect of, obviously, Arthur Fleck's delusions and stuff like that. So either way, I'm getting into the ramble of that whole plot theory stuff, but I don't think it's gonna happen. Do I think that's a cool vision you just said there? Yeah, that would be cool. A bit too Batman Begins, a bit too rehashed, so I don't think Matt Reeves would do it that way. And what I mean by that is, you know, how at the end of the movie, Gordon presented him the Joker card. But I don't think they're going to link Arthur Fleck into it at all. But I would happily in an alternate dimension watch a movie where it's literally Matt Reeves directing, Robert Pattinson, and they actually connected the Elseworlds Joker to this movie. I also do I'm a bit split personality wise here in terms of I am one of those fans who says no, they shouldn't connect him, but I would also like to see a movie with Arthur Fleck up against Robert Pattinson's Batman. I just would. Hate me if you want. I don't care. I would love to see that. But I don't think it should happen at the same time, and I don't think it will. Anyway, moving on. TripX999. If we get a Joker, do you think he will have a very important storyline with Batman throughout the trilogy, or will he be important to the overall story, or will he just be a secondary villain? Very good question. I'm very perplexed on this one myself, because yes, people might be of the mind, and I get everyone's perspectives here. How can you do a Batman trilogy, especially a trilogy, without doing the Joker, right? Fair enough. But then there's like Joker in recent years. Not only have we had him done so well, we've even had a solo movie where it was such a great rendition of one of the multiple choice ways in where the movie offered, oh, did this actually happen that way? I really love Joker. As for this trilogy, it's just with those things into account, it makes me instinctually want to say, like, intuitively straight away, I feel like they'll set him up more as a secondary character in the first and second movie and maybe save him for the third movie, because by then, I'm not saying Joker has been fatigued for audiences, but I have seen comments like that, and I would say, let's just say for a majority, people are fatigued to an extent, despite no matter how many people still want to see Joker in this trilogy, right? With what I just said, think about it. This next movie's coming out, the first movie's coming out in 2022. So if they're going to treat him as a secondary character in the first and second movie, we've got till 2022, then you won't see the second installment until around 2024, and if you're then going to set him up for the third movie, you know, very earliest, end of 2025, 2026 is when you'll see the Joker. Let's just say third movie. I think by then, I think he could be very important to the overall story, but just to also play it wise and not have him in the first or second movie when everyone's just like, oh, we've already seen him, blah. By the end of the third movie, or by the third movie, sorry, fans would be ready to welcome him back and be like, oh no, we need a Batman and a Joker movie. Heck, Matt Reeves, put him in your third one, please. Whereas I don't think they're saying that right now about the first film. Nobody is really saying, I mean, there are some fans, but everyone's saying Mr. Freeze or someone else. We don't need Joker right now. So I think it will be important, but I've got the intuition that he won't be that important. He will be a bit of a secondary villain. Could be the thing where Batman actually already created him in the timeline of Batman Year One. There are many theories where, and I kind of partially agree with this, I mean, they could do it where maybe Gotham PD will have investigation into in terms of an outside perspective of the Joker being created through those chemicals, but we don't actually see it technically happen, but we watch it unfold in an investigation format from the Gotham PD side of things. Who knows? Like, they could go 1,000 different avenues. So Flick says, what is this movie rated? How many kills could be in this movie? And since Batman isn't Batman yet, do you think we would see him kill? So what is this movie rated? I don't think it's gonna be R-rated. I would love for it to be, but think about it. Ticket sales, if you restrict it, no matter what, you're gonna get parents who won't let their kid go with them, kind of thing, and you lose on money. And it's just like, do they want to do that or not? It's this question of money. And I know they've done it with things like Deadpool and stuff like that, but that is obviously a bit different. Batman is Batman, don't get me wrong. I mean, he's got a freaking bat symbol on his chest. But yeah, like, for all intents and purposes, he is a definitive Batman, not even unto himself just yet. And that's why we're going to see that really, really interesting psychological journey for him. But will we see him kill? No. But I think this first movie will be seriously Bruce on the freaking brink of killing. And it'll be such a self-teacher for him. I think he will be so close to it, so close. I think for all we know, that this first movie will be about, or a moral kind of takeout from it, setting up his no-kill rule. So that I'm not saying that means he's going to kill and then just decide to not kill. I think one of the byproducts and returns we'll see out of his journey in this first film will be the refrain to kill in the future. Sure, you could just say, like, but Boba, like, Bruce is already going to have that. Like, that's one of his core things going into being Batman in of itself. Like, he just won't do that anyway. Yes, I think he will have that. Nobody really wants to kill anyone else kind of thing if you're a half-decent person. But I think that doesn't mean he still won't have a profound experience again and again in this movie of nearly wanting to do that still, and then just no matter what coming out of this movie knowing he's not going to ever do that. Cole Baker asks, ultimately, where do you see Matt Reeves' universe going? Will we just get to see 3 trilogy Batman movies, or do you see it expanding to some Justice League movies and team-ups down the road? So I see the universe going somewhere, but I wouldn't say to the extent of a Justice League team-up. I'm not saying that's out of the cards for this Batman in your head canon, like down the road. But, like, for example, it's rumored, and I have on very good information, that the Catwoman HBO Max series is low-key happening. Obviously, we already know about the Gotham PD show, so there is an actual Batman cinematic universe being established on the down low. It's technically not on the DL, just because we know about Gotham PD, but don't be surprised if you do hear official confirmation in the next year, several months really, about a Catwoman actual HBO Max show. And I think they'll play it by ear from here on out as to how fans will receive this Batman material, like especially the first movie, to then announce other potential things, depending if we get a Robin in the trilogy, whether that's the second or end of the second film to actually do the Robin and Batman story in the third movie. We might only get an announcement that they're doing something with Nightwing after the third movie, but that's still like 5+ years from now. So you have to really like think of it with those goggles on. I definitely think no matter what, there is plans for a Batman cinematic universe in terms of Reeves' universe for Gotham, but I don't think you're going to see, you know, Aquaman and Wonder Woman throwing their arms around each other and stopping some threat. No, that is definitely the, not Snyder area, but the DC cinematic universe, albeit that they're focusing on their own material and own individual solo movies like Aquaman 2, Wonder Woman 1984, the next Shazam, la-di-da-da. I still think, you know, that stuff is left for that ballpark. And then you have the Reeves Pocket Universe over here doing its own glorifying cool crap. So McKenna Jackson says, what kind of role do you think Jamie Lawson's character Bella Real will play in the story, given that she was included on the press release with other major characters? So she's playing a mayoral candidate, if my memory serves me well. I think she could be the one who might keep almost getting taken out. Like, the mayor dies because he's a corrupt person. I think Bella won't be a corrupt person. She's going to be actually one of the good ones trying to be that. I think Bruce is going to be trying to protect her so she actually does become a mayor who doesn't die from the Riddler. And I think she might come close to death. I don't know how big her role is going to be, but I know what you mean. She was in that press release. There's already adverts, you know, along the drops, adverts that I told you of Gotham's health department. We're advertising on those kind of, you know, billboard screeny kind of things, or on the side of trucks. I can't remember. There was also adverts for Bella's mayoral campaign. She's going to be one of the good players in Gotham. You know, how many good guys out there and how many people stayed that way? I think she's going to be one of the good guys, but it's also going to be a challenge to keep her, not keep her good, but keep her alive, because, you know, Gotham's like a shark, and if you're a little innocent goldfish swimming around, you're going to be gone in no time. And I think that would be a cool Bruce Wayne side of things for Bruce to handle and protect, rather than just Batman saving a life. I don't know, it'll be cool to see Bruce endorse her and stuff like that. So I'm gonna call this the last question, but I've so many more, so expect maybe a part 4 before New Year's. We're gonna have to wait and see there, but like, I hope you guys are enjoying this so far. So King Clutch 13 says, what do you think about the scene from the trailer where we see a stressful Bruce in a room with a red light? Don't forget as well, red is very heavily themed here. The Batman suit reveal was all red, the title was red, vengeance, you know, you get the flavor and color tone behind what Matt Reeves is going for there. Anyway, I need to stop answering in the middle of a freaking question. We also get a shot of his mask, hinting it could be the place where he stores his suit. I'm excited that we might see a Bruce that has to combat the mental toll it takes to be Batman. Yes, 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 and triple thousand billion% yes. Nailed it on the head. That scene where Bruce is, you know, doing the kind of typical Arrow training dummy kind of thing. He's beating the crap out of one of his training dummies. Sorry, I forget the name of those actual, you know, things that you can do. I think maybe that moment is after a potential death. A person like Gil Coulson, he couldn't actually save the district attorney who blows up in the cathedral where Batman tries to decode the Riddler's bomb. Obviously, it goes south. That's kind of a spoiler, but the frickin' trailer shows it. We've all been talking about this forever. So I think whether it's not that or if it's something else, Bruce is very angry in this movie. He has anger management. That is a common fact for Batman anyway. But from what Matt Reeves has articulated in this movie, it is going to be so hard for him to keep a lid on that. And it's about him even learning on how to even begin to slowly screw that lid back on it. So in that moment, love the red, love the anger that invokes in that scene. It's so quick, but hopefully I'm showing on screen. You see his mask on the floor there. I love how that gives you another angle of the mask, by the way. Notice how you get a little bit of a side look about how thick the mask is on the eye bit. It's like that thick. So like, you know, even though it is leathery, you could argue it has other layers underneath it that could protect from like a stab. I don't know if you would go as far as saying a gunshot, but yeah, I just thought I'd mention that because it's another cool detail. The cowl's a lot thicker and protective than actually what it seems. But yeah, love that image of Bruce just going effing mental on his own training dummy. Could be where he keeps the suit. Doesn't really, that's not so important to me. It's more about, yes, we're going to see Bruce kind of combat the toll this takes on him. This is why fans go to foam at their mouth when it comes to this film being released, because Reeves is giving us arguably the most fascinating thing about Batman ever, and that is his psyche being dissected in a character study of a movie that is the Batman 2022. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, I really enjoyed talking about Batman once again. I will be bringing out part 4 soon. Once again, I seriously am not trying to milk this. It's just I really love talking about it. You guys seem to be really enjoying it. And there's still plenty of questions I want to talk about that I've already screenshotted that I just couldn't fit into today's video. So I hope you're all having a Merry Christmas. If you're watching this after Christmas, hope you already had one. And if you're watching this on Christmas Eve, well, yeah, just thank you for an awesome year on the channel. This isn't New Year's, but you get how it is. For those of you who especially made it to this part, like we're quite far into the video now, you guys are the real ones out there. Really appreciate the support on this channel. If you made it this far as well, just type in the comments to prove it. Long live Pattinson. I don't know, just something like that. Like it if you did enjoy it. Subscribe for more videos like this. By the way, I do have a Patreon just in case you want to support the channel even further. A join button. Other places you can follow me on Twitter and Instagram and stuff for more behind the scenes of me, I guess. And I have a Discord server where you can say hi to voice chat with me. I can't talk or make sense. But anyway, thank you so much for watching. Hope you all have a lovely rest of your day. And I'll see you, Bat Family, in the next video. Goodbye.